Shalom, 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 my brothers and sisters of the nation of Israel, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who have been scattered worldwide, the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Welcome to another end of the week Sabbath class. I'm your brother Ananias.
Brother Ezekiel.
We are A.O.I, the Awakening of Israel. And before we get started, we want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai being his son who the world calls Christ, and through his strength, sacrifice, and example, we are all able to be here today to be uplifted and edified in the spirit. So once again, we want to give a shout out to you brothers and sisters who are tuning in, and for those who will tune in, for those who constantly enduring this truth, have been in it for a while and keep pushing day in and day out. We appreciate you, and the Lord is watching. Your work is not in vain. And for those who are new to the truth, continue to build yourself up in the spirit and go out there and save your brothers and sisters, because without you, this job is impossible to do. But through the Lord, anything is possible. So we appreciate everybody tuning in once again. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe, share this content with your brothers and sisters, because this message got to go out. Also, as well, make sure that you got your Bible out and you're ready to follow along. Get your pen, your pad, whatever it is that's needed. Get your Bibles out. Pay attention. All right. So tonight's class, as you can see, is called the Romeo and Juliet effect. The Romeo and Juliet effect. Now, I know you might be thinking to yourself, what kind of class is this? What does this have to do with the truth? Well, it has everything to do with the truth, because that story, whether you want to believe it or not, is symbolic to what we have done as a nation of people and what we choose to continue to do as a nation of people. All right. Now, I'm going to give you a little rundown about this story for those who don't know. Now, of course, this story was written and displayed by our enemy that you would know of as William Shakespeare. All right. But this is a worldwide known story / play, whatever you want to call it. It's a story nonetheless. But it's a story of Romeo and Juliet, as you can see on the screen. It's two lovers from different worlds or different families who fall in love at first sight, which would sound good to most people, especially in this day and age, loving that fairy tale narrative. But it's actually a story about defiance, disobedience, rebellion, which ended in death. It's a story about two people who come from two different families who are constantly at war with each other. Two families that forbid these two individuals from being together. But them two individuals, those children, they refuse to follow the commandments of their parents and their family members to follow after the lust of their own heart. The end result of the story is that the two lovers end up dead. Sorry to bring it to an end like that, but that's what it is. Due to the constant rebellion to follow the rules that were put in place to protect them, they refused to follow. Since then, a new concept has emerged in today's society known as the Romeo and Juliet effect, especially with our people. And that concept is what we're going to get into tonight. And that concept is exactly the effect of what we as a nation has chosen to follow, even before the story was created, even until this day. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into it. And let's go to the book of Romans 15:4 right quick. Make sure that you're following along. Make sure you're taking notes. Make sure you hit that like button. So we're going to go into this Romeo and Juliet effect. What is it? You know what I'm saying? Let me get this definition right quick, or what they have in the American Psychological Association regarding the Romeo and Juliet effect, because it's actually something that you can read about. And it says it's the tendency of relationship partners, usually adolescents, meaning kids, teenagers, to feel greater affection for their partners when they perceive others, meaning the parents, to be interfering with the relationship. The Romeo and Juliet effect is an example of reactance, or the tendency to find something more desirable when outside forces threaten to restrict one's access to it. So basically, in a nutshell, it's saying when somebody is telling you no, our people want to continue to go toward it. Just like pushing that big red button that you see in some of these cartoons and movies. Or don't put your hand on that fire to burn you. A lot of our people want to see, will it really burn you? And that's the effect that goes on in today's society with our people. When the Lord is telling us to stay away, what do? We gravitate toward it. Just like our parents tell us not to do something, what do? We try to sneak and do it anyway, just to see what it's all about. Why can't I do it? But that's what we're going to get into tonight. So let's open up with the book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 4.
Book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4.
Huh?
For whatsoever thing were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
So whatever was written in the scriptures was written for what reason? For our learning purposes. Our history was written down for our learning of past times, so we would know how to deal with things that would come up in the future. Because as the scriptures state, there's nothing new under the sun, and what has been shall be. You know what I'm saying? So the rebellion that was going on in the beginning of time will continue to go on throughout time. But in order to learn from it, it had to be written down. Otherwise, when somebody spoke of it, you would just think it was a figment of their imagination. But the things that are written down are written for our learning purposes, especially in the scriptures. When you read about the laws, the judgments, the statutes, the ordinances, the testimonies, that's our history that's being written down so that we would be able to read those things and remember exactly who we are and where we came from, how we got to the position that we in today. So that's why we read the scriptures and we study and meditate day in and day out. From there, let's go to the book of Baruch, chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse 1. The book of Baruch, chapter 2, we're going to start at verse 1, and we're going to read the 6.
All right. Baruch, chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore, the Lord hath made good his word, which he pronounced against us, and against our judges that judge Israel, and against our kings, and against our princesses, and against the men of Israel and Judah. Verse
So
2.
the Lord did these things against who? Not all people, but against his people, the nation of Israel, the children of Israel. Read on.
Verse 2. To bring upon us great plagues, such as never happened under the whole heaven. It as it came to pass in Jerusalem according to the things that were written in the law of Moses. Verse 3. That a man should eat flesh of his own son and the flesh of his own daughter.
That's a curse right there for those who don't know. The Lord would put curses, plagues on his people for being disobedient, being defiant, being rebellious. This is the book of Baruch, and he's going into how the Lord put these things on us, and it ain't happened to nobody else but Jerusalem, meaning the nation of Israel. Read on.
Verse 4. Moreover, he had delivered them to be in subjection to all the kingdoms that are round about us, to be as a reproach and desolation among all people round about where the Lord have scattered them.
See that? He didn't say some people. And a lot of our people get it construed and confused, thinking that we only serve the so-called white man in slavery. No, the Lord said right there in verse 4, moreover, he have delivered them to be in subjection to all kingdoms that are round about us. So we done been in captivity under every nation that you can think of. Every nation of people, we have been subject or in subjection to them in captivity. That's biblical. So make note of that we have been in captivity under all nations, so that you can explain that to your brothers and sisters, even to the other nations when they try to say that you're not Israelite. You can show them right there that the Lord put his people in subjection under all nations. Read on. Verse 5.
Verse 5. Thus we were cast down and not exalted, because we have sinned against the Lord our God, and have not been obedient unto his voice.
Verse
Verse
6.
the Lord, verse 6, to the Lord our God pertaineth righteousness, but unto us and to our fathers upon shame, as apparent this day.
As it appeareth this day. So unto us we have been what? In shame. Been in captivity after captivity. As such a great people as we are, it's funny that it ain't even funny, but it's amazing. It's an astonishment. I I choose that word rather, that we, being so great, are on the bottom and have been in captivity after captivity, under subjection, under every nation, on this, under every kingdom. The Lord said, to the Lord our God appertaineth righteousness. He's righteous in everything that he does. But unto us and to our fathers open shame. Shame. Because the Lord chose us, here we are in captivity. He chose us, here we are trying to be like the other nations. Here we are constantly fighting and killing each other when we were supposed to be loving the Lord, loving each other.
Exalted. Because
Shalom.
All right. Shalom, King.
Shalom. Shalom.
So in verse 5, it says that we were cast, not exalted, because we have sinned against the Lord our God and have not been obedient to his voice. So we have been cast down. We on the bottom of society. We in the bottom of everything. Any business that you can think of, we on the bottom. Even though we the greatest, we at the bottom. You look at the NBA, we the one that actually promoted. On the NFL field, we the one out there running the ball, throwing the ball, catching the ball, but we on the bottom. We don't own nothing. We don't own them teams. You know, we are not exalted. We are on the bottom, cast down. Why? Why are we cast down? For sin, disobedience, trying to be like Romeo and Juliet. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 right quick. We're going to start at verse 1. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1, and we're going to read the 6.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou.
He said 7 nations that are greater and mightier than we were. The Lord going to throw them out. He's going to kick them out. Read.
Verse 2. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them from before thee, Salaki, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
Read on, King.
Neither, verse 3, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. But thus shall ye deal with them. You shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
See that? So the Lord told us specifically who we ain't supposed to be dealing with. And he told us why we ain't supposed to be dealing with them, because they would turn us away from following him. He also told us not to make no agreements, no covenants with them, not to be giving our sons and daughters over to them for marriage, or to even be laying down with them. Why? Because we are a holy people, a special people, a chosen people. But here we are today following or doing the complete opposite. You know what I'm saying? And let's go to 1 Kings 11 and 1 and 2 right quick. Because a lot of people will see that or read that and say, see there, he didn't say nothing about the so-called white man. He didn't say that about the Japanese or the Chinese man. Well, let's go read. That's why we got to read precept upon precept. Because a lot of people will read that and say, he just told us not to deal with the so-called Africans. Well, let's go to 1 Kings 11 and 1.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come into you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love.
See that? Make sure you highlight that, Israel. If you ain't know, we are not supposed to be dealing with the other nations. Solomon, as great as he was, he still went off. He still went off. The wisest man, but he still went off. You see that? He was dealing with the Pharaoh, with the daughter of Pharaoh. Those are the Egyptians. Moabites, those are the Chinese. Ammonites, those are the Japanese. Edomites, those are the so-called white folks. Zidonians and Hittites, those are the so-called Africans. You see that? And Iranians. You see that? But he was dealing with the other nations. The Lord told him not to deal with that. Verse 2, it said, other nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel. So it wasn't just Solomon he told it to. It was to all of our nation. Not to deal with these other nations. Neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart, meaning your mind, after their gods. Santa Claus, Caesar Borgia, leprechauns, what else? Cupid,
Easter,
all these different pagan holidays. Say what, King?
Easter bunnies.
Easter bunnies, you know, Estar. All these different gods we serving here in this land. All right. And us in other lands, we serving Buddha, we serving Allah, we serving Krishna, all these different gods. And we doing these things because we were mixing and mingling after these other nations. You know what I'm saying? Following after their customs and traditions. From there, let's go to Sirach chapter 6, verse 13. So the Lord told us not to be mixing and mingling with these other nations, nor following their traditions, nor trying to be like them. But what did we do? What did we do when the Lord told us to do this right here? Sirach 6 and 13.
All right. The book of Ecclesiastes, Sirach chapter 6, verse 13. Separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends.
Separate yourselves from thine enemies. Let me get Leviticus 20 and 26. See that? The Lord says separate. When you read the scripture, the Lord is all about segregation. But our people in the customs of this world always try to come together and do the opposite of what the Lord designed it to be. You know what I'm saying? We do the complete opposite. He gave us all separate lands to dwell in, but we want to come together and live in one place. What do they do here in Babylon the Great? Call it the big melting pot. We want to dwell together. That's why we can't get along. That's why so much chaos and crime. That's why we as a people don't know how to treat each other because we're so busy trying to emulate and be like everybody else. We're trying to be just like the other nation. When the Lord says, separate yourself. When he brought us out of Egypt into the wilderness, did he bring us together with the other nation? No, he separated us from the other nation, from our enemies. So when he says separate thine enemies, that's a commandment. But we so busy today breaking his commandment, we don't know how to do good. And that's why we're in this condition we in now. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 20, and verse number 26. And ye shall be holy unto me, for I the Lord am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine.
That what?
That ye should be mine.
That we should be his. He severed us, meaning he separated us from the other nations. But here we are wanting to do what we want to do, thinking we can do what we want and get away with it. Now I'm going to show you something out this book, if I can pull it up right quick. Where did it disappear to? Bear with me, Israel. Let me pull it up. All right.
Like in that, you got it.
Yes, sir. All right. If you can see this, can y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
All right. This book is called Sex and Racism in America, written by Calvin C. Hurton. All right. It's a good book to read. And it was copyrighted and written in 1965. All right. 1965. All right, I'm going to read the introduction to this right quick, just to show you how time after time it has showed us how we are supposed to be. But over time, we continue to get worse and worse due to iniquity. Let me get that in Matthew right quick, King. Matthew 24 and 12.
the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse number 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold.
You see that? It said, because iniquity shall abound, meaning because more iniquity, more sin will keep happening, the love of many will grow colder. All right. So I'm going to read it. It said, the central idea of this book is asserted in the following statement. There is a sexual involvement at one real and vicarious connecting white and black people in America that spans the history of this country from the era of slavery to the present. Now, a lot of our people, they don't, for some odd reason, they like to skip over the fact that the same one we trying to lay down and marry had us in captivity, had us in slavery, were beating our backs in, raping us, robbing us, burning us alive. They tend to overlook these things to fulfill the lust of their heart, just like Romeo and Juliet. It said, connecting the history of this country from the era of slavery to the present and involvement so immaculate and yet so perverse, so ethical and yet so concrete that all race relations tend to be, however, subtle sex relations. All right. Now, I know a lot of you hear those terms and you get excited, but that ain't what we're going into. It said, the author said, I wrote this statement in 1964. 25 years later, have passed a quarter of a century. The written laws, particularly in the South, that used to make interracial marriage a crime have been wiped off the books. But the unwritten taboo is you aren't supposed to do it. Against racial intermingling have not changed one iota. Meaning it ain't changed at all. All right, it says, if anything, the inflammable emotions surrounding race and sex have become even more manifest. In 1983, news headlines reported the shooting of Vernon Jordan, former director of the National Urban League, for and while associating, excuse me, let me blow it back up, associating with a white woman. But only a few such incidents are reported in the national news. So this type of thing happens all the time, whether we want to admit it or not. We see it constantly throughout history. Whenever our brothers try to go mixing and mingling with them Edomites, Idumeans, they end up getting raped and robbed and put to death. Why? Because we are not supposed to be doing these things. They were trying to uphold these things in the beginning when we first came over here. And even when we on the east side of the world. You know what I'm saying? It was looked down upon for us to be mixing and mingling with the other nations. But when we got over to this side of the world in captivity, it was strictly enforced. It was a crime for us to be laying down and making interracial marriages and laying down and having sex with these other individuals. It was an unwritten rule we weren't supposed to be doing, even though it was written in the Bible. But those who don't participate or believe in the Bible, they would say it's just an unwritten rule. We weren't supposed to be doing these things. But the Lord said he has severed us from the other nations. Why? Because we better, we special. And I'm going to show you just how wicked these other nations are in trying to influence our children to go contrary to what the Bible actually speaks. I'll show you this little movie clip right quick, or a trailer, to show you how they try to influence the minds of the children to go against the Bible. And if we're not careful as parents, we'll fall right into it, and our children will be influenced, indoctrinated right under our nose. And we'll be like, now, why in the hell did they choose to go after these folks? Why do they like dealing with them? This is the reason why.
Meet the residents of Element City. Air usually has their head in the clouds.
Oh, my new jacket.
Earth can be a little seedy.
Nothing weird going on here.
Just a little pruning. Water is always getting into something. And fire, as ordered, we run a little hot.
This shop is dream of our family. Someday it'll all be yours.
But we all live by one simple rule.
Listen to what the rule is.
Elements cannot mix.
Elements cannot mix. You got earth, water, air, and fire. They said the rule is we don't mix.
The pipe squished me all out of shape.
Dang.
That's better.
Oh.
So you've never left Firetown?
Sorry, buddy. Elements don't mix.
Sorry, buddy. Elements don't mix. That's how we supposed to be in the mindset. Israelites don't mix.
Hey!
Plus, my dad would boil you alive.
Why does anyone get to tell you what you can do in your life?
There you go, right there. Listen to that again. What can you do in your life? I'm gonna play it back a little further.
Hey!
Plus, my dad would boil you alive.
Why does anyone get to tell you what you can do in your life?
That's the number one narrative that they push in society today. Why does anybody else get to tell you how to live your life? That's basically telling you to be rebellious as hell. Do what you want to do, regardless of what your parents or what your elders or what your family members are saying or what the Lord is saying. Why does anybody have to tell you how to live your life? That's a rebellious spirit right there that we got to be on lookout for. These are the things that they promote to us and to our children today. You know what I'm saying? Got to be mindful of what's going on.
Come on!
Why do they even have these?
Who knows?
That's a fence to keep them out. Protection. That's that barrier. That's that hedge of protection that the Lord put around his people, his vineyard, the nation of Israel. Protection. But when we go through it and we say the hell with it, I don't even know why they're here. Why we even got to abide by these laws, statutes, and commandments. It's for protection. But the same mindset that we have today is exactly what you just seen happen in that scene right there. You said, why do we even have these here?
Who knows?
Watch this!
Whoa.
Ember, I see a change in you.
What, hair guy? You live here?
It's my mom's place.
See that? Now, this cartoon right here is something that fascinates the child's mind because it got all the different colors, the animations, the different things that they don't see on a day-to-day basis. But the message is being implanted. Why can't we be together? Yeah, we don't look the same. We're not the same. We don't think the same. Our environment's not the same. But who can tell us how to live our lives?
Got two kids that are swimming around here somewhere. Orca! Follow!
I've been trying to fill my father's shoes, but I never once asked what I wanted to do.
There you go right there. They never asked what I wanted to do. What is our job as Israelites? To fear the Lord and keep his commandments. That's our job. But what are they telling us through the movies, through the music, through the magazines, through the commercials? Do what you want to do. Live it up. These are the things that they constantly push on our children day in and day out. That's why we got to fight so much harder these days. That's why we got to take time and sit down and teach our children and talk to them every day, as the scriptures tell us. Because you got all these different things fighting against what you say outside of the household, even in the household. You got video games, you got phones, tablets, TVs, music, friends at school, what they teaching them at school, what their friends are saying, what they saying outside the household. All that is fighting against you teaching them righteousness. So you can't take that thing lightly. You got to fight day in and day out, all day. Not when you feel like it, when you get an opportunity every day, like it's your last.
Right.
Because they constantly fighting to take the mind of your children. That's why you see the wickedness going on in the world that you see going on today, because of things like this. They're showing you hidden messages. You have to have an open mind, an open eye to see these things.
Try this.
See that? Now, they got these two elements that ain't supposed to be together, but you have one entering into the other's lifestyle, learning their customs, their traditions, learning their ways. That's the same thing you got going on here today. Our people want to fly across the country to go live and be like the other folks, and that's the same thing you read in the scriptures. You know, that's the same thing you read in the scriptures, where Nehemiah went to our brothers and sisters, and our people couldn't even speak our own language, but they could speak the other nation language. They didn't know who they were, but they could speak the other folks' language. How backwards is that? In our own land, We mixing and mingling with the other nations and can't speak our own tongue, but we can speak the other nation's tongue. So what do you think led from there? Us going into their customs, worshiping their gods, as the scriptures just told us.
Dad, those are too hot.
I love hot food.
Now, a child watching that, they're gonna start laughing. But you as an adult, you gotta be mindful of what's being pushed on your child right there. They saying it's okay. See, he gets along with my dad, with my mother, my family, they're okay. That's what they push in these movies. The Lord says, separate thyself from thine enemies.
Right.
Stop mixing and mingling. Stop breaking the rules like Romeo and Juliet, because it's going to end in death. All right. From there, let's go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 1. The book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 1. And then somebody give me First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11.
Book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 1.
Huh?
Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them.
Read that one more time, King.
Proverbs 24, verse 1. Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them.
Neither desire to be with them, with evil men. The Lord is telling us right there. That's another clue to let you know to separate from your enemies. Because the other nations, the heathen, are evil.
Right.
They will not keep the commandments. They will not teach you to keep the commandments, and they ain't gonna tell you who you are. They are in agreement to destroy us as a nation. They will never tell us the truth. They will tell us nothing but lies. The Lord tell us the wicked come out of the womb. They are estranged from the womb to speak lies. That's Psalms 58 and 3. But the Lord said, don't desire to be with evil men or evil nations. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11.
Right. The book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse number 11. In those days went out, Salah. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go up and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Let me get First Samuel chapter 8. And it says, in those days went out there of Israel wicked men. That is the same thing that happened in time past or the times of old that's happening right now. That convince our people to stand up and fight for your right to be able to lay down with the other nations who have raped and robbed and killed your people. These are the things that our people don't want to hear. The truth of the Bible, that the Lord is against equality. Ain't no such thing as equality in the Bible. The Lord is against it. We want to assimilate. The Lord says separate. Right. You know? But it was wicked men, just like you got wicked pastors today teaching love everybody. The music, like Michael Jackson and all them back in the day, we are the world. They hold a hand, rocking back and forth, saying we are the world. Let's heal the world. Nah, the Lord is not with it. But the influence of the media and everything around is going to tell us opposite of what we need to be hearing. So it was evil men that went out of Israel who went and persuaded many, meaning manipulating the minds of many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. Didn't the Lord tell us in the beginning, don't make no covenants with them?
That's right.
So why are we going to make covenants with them? Talking about it's been so long. What did it say? For since we departed from them, when the Lord separated us from them, we have had so much sorrow. Nah, you weren't able to be as wicked as you wanted to be. You weren't able to go lay down with the Edomite, with the Moabite, with the Ammonite, with the Egyptians, because our people was putting you to death for that. You know, you weren't able to go lay down with another man if you was a man, because we was putting you to death for that. You weren't able to go sleep with this man's wife, with that man's wife, because we was putting you to death for that. The other nations, they in agreement with that. That's why the Lord said, separate yourself from your enemy, because they're going to corrupt you. But it was wicked men of our own people that convinced our people to do these things, to follow the lust of their heart, just like Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, something, King.
About, bro. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. And it says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith.
That's right.
It said his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. And that's not only talking about Esau, that's talking about the other nation too. Everybody seem to lift their spirit up against us like they're more than and we're less than. You know, it said, behold, his soul which is lifted up. All of them have souls are lifted up against us.
Right.
It's not
Hold
it's
up.
not talking about Esau. It's talking about all of our enemies.
That's right. Shalom, King. Appreciate that precept, King. Let's go to Samuel chapter 8, verse 4. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 4, and we're going to read 4 through 9. Just to show you how bad we wanted to be like the other nation. We already had our brothers sneaking out, going and dealing, trying to make covenants with the other nations. Wanting to be just like them. They went to make covenants, agreements with their kings, with their officials. Let's see what else our people is so anxious to do. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 4.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 4. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah and said unto him, behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
Make us a what?
Make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
Just like all the other nations. Read.
Verse 6. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people, and all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them.
That what?
That I should not reign over them.
See that? We want a king to rule, a man to rule over us rather than the Most High. Read on.
Verse 8. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto me.
So we forgot about the Lord. That's what that word forsaken means. They have forsaken me, forgot about him, and served other gods so that they can do also unto thee. Read.
Verse 9. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them.
So
and
he was telling Samuel, he was like, hey, hearken on what they say. They don't want me to rule over. All right. Tell them what the king gonna do when he start to rule over them. Tell them how wicked this king is gonna be when he start ruling over them. Forewarn them, give them warning, just like he always do. The Lord always give warning before destruction. He gave them warning. And he told the people, and they said, hey, we don't care about that. We want a king. We don't care about that. We want a king. You know? Matter of fact, skip down to verse 19.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 19. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, nay, but we will have a king over us.
Read.
That we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles.
And fight our battles. How wicked is that? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 27. So we said to hell with letting the Most High rule over us. We want a man to rule over. A wicked man, knowing man gonna go off all the time. We want a man to rule over. We don't want the one who saved us out of captivity to rule over. We want a man that's gonna go off to rule over. Biblical prophecy. It happens over and over and over again. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 27.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 27. For I know thy rebellion and thy stiff neck. Behold, while I am yet alive with you this day, ye have been rebellious against the Lord. And how much more after my death?
And what?
And how much more after my death?
And how much more after his death, after the death of Moses? Hey, that's a question right there. Read on.
Verse 28. Gather unto me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their ears, and call heaven and earth to record against them.
Read.
Verse 29. And I know that after my death ye will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil befall you in the latter days, because ye will do evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands.
See that? So Moses was saying in the beginning that we were going to corrupt ourselves. Corrupt ourselves. Doing what? Mingling with the other nations. Let's go to the book of Ezra right quick. Book of Ezra, chapter 9, verse 1 and 2. The Lord said, we're going to corrupt ourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days. These are the latter days that we're living in right now. The latter days. Evil would befall the children of Israel because we would turn aside from the Most High. Let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 9, verse 1.
The book of Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 1. Now when these things were done, the prince came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, and the Ammonites, and the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites.
Read.
For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yet the hand of the princes and rulers have been chief in this trespass.
See that? It said, for
And
they have taken the daughters for themselves and their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of the land. We watered down our seed. We diluted, we polluted our seed by mixing and mingling with the other nations. You see that? Mixing with the not with the Levite, but the Canaanites, the Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Ammonites, Moabites, Egyptians, Amorite. All these different nations of people that were living around us, we mixing and mingling with them, diluting our seed. That's the same thing going on today. You don't even know who is who now. That's why the other nation, when we start speaking about who we are, oh man, everybody been laying there. I got some Indian in me. Nah.
Hey, brother, and when you said use the word dilute, that means make weaker. It's not strong as it was. You want to dilute it to make it less potent. We want our seed to be potent. We don't need to dilute our seed with nothing.
That's right.
100%.
That's why you think they want to mix with us. They know we a holy seed. They know we stronger, faster, bigger, and everything. We better than them. That's why they trying to mix and mingle with us. They want a little taste of it.
Right.
You know. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. They want to be with us. Even though they hate our guts, they want to be us. They don't want to walk in our shoes, though. They want to be us. They steal everything we do. Our inventions, our dance moves, the way we sing, the way we cook, our ideas, everything. They steal from us. They love everything that we do, but they don't want to walk in our shoes. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14.
2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Be ye not unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?
See that? What we doing mixing with unrighteousness? Those who walk in darkness, what we doing mixing with them? Read on.
Verse number 15. And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath that Salaki? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? And or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel.
You see that? What Christ got to do with Baal, the devil, Satan? They don't go together. They shouldn't be in the same realm. They shouldn't be hitched. Read.
Verse 16. And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God. As God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
See that? The Lord ain't dwelling. He ain't dealing with the other nations. So what are we doing mixing and mingling with them? He ain't dwelling in them. That's ass backwards. That's asinine. You know, it don't make no sense. That's backwards as you can get. Read on.
Verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them and
Do
be
what?
Wherefore come out from among them.
That's separation right there, people. That's segregation right there, people. Come out from among them. Didn't he tell us earlier to separate from our enemies? Why are we dealing with them? Read on.
And be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you.
You see that? Touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. But what are we doing today? We want to do the complete opposite. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 7, verse 9. The Lord said, come out of them, have no fellowship with the unrighteous. But what do? Zechariah, chapter 7, verse 9.
Hey, brother.
Zechariah, chapter 7, verse 9.
I got Zechariah chapter 7 and verse 9. Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, execute true judgment and show mercy and compassion, every man to his brother.
Read.
Verse 10. And oppress not the widow, nor the fatherless, the stranger, nor the poor, and let none of you imagine evil against thy brother in your heart.
Read.
Verse 11. But they refuse to hearken and pull away the shoulder and stop their ears, that they should not hear.
He said, but they refused to hearken and pulled away the shoulder. You know how somebody trying to, hey, brother, hey, let me tell you something. You jerking the shoulder away from him. We gave the Lord a cold shoulder. Man, get off him. Get off me, man. I don't want to hear that. What it said, but they refused to hearken and pulled away the shoulder and stopped the ears, that they should not hear. What? I can't hate my brother? They put the hands over the ear. I'm supposed to be kind one to another. I don't want to hear that. That's exactly what's going on today. Read on. Verse 12.
Verse 12. Yea, they made their hearts as an adamant stone, lest they should hear the law and the words which the Lord of hosts has sent in his spirit by the former prophets. Therefore came a great wrath from the Lord of hosts.
See that? It said, yea, they made their hearts as an adamant stone. Hard-headed. Hard-headed. But they ain't want to hear the law, just like they don't want to hear the laws today. Read on.
Verse 14.
13.
Verse 13. Therefore it comes to pass that as he cried, and they would not hear, so they cried, and I would not hear. Lord of hosts. Verse 14. But I scattered them with a whirlwind among all the nations whom they knew not. Thus the land was desolate after them, that no man passed through nor returned, for they laid the pleasant land desolate.
See that? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 5. So we done gave the Lord a cold shoulder. Like, hey, we ain't got time to hear what you talking about. We done heard that. That's just like when the elders used to talk back in the day. They'd be like, be quiet, old man. We done heard that before. We done heard that. They did the same thing. The Lord said, I have scattered them with a whirlwind among all the nations. That's your transatlantic slave trade. That's your sub-Saharan slave trade. scattered us among all nations. Therefore our land was desolate, that no man passed through nor returned for the land, for they laid the pleasant land desolate. Let's go to Jeremiah 2 and 5 right quick. Somebody give me Ezekiel chapter 16.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 5. Thus said the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity? Thus said the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity, and become vain.
See that? What iniquity have the fathers found in me? The Lord asking the question right there. What did I do? I gave you everything that you wanted in life. You wanted fame, I gave you fame. You wanted land, I gave you fame. Land. You wanted fame, riches, servants, the best food, the best clothing. What else do you want? What did I do? What did I take from you to make you want to go chase after other lovers? What made you want to do these things? Was it the thrill? The fact that I told you don't do this, that made you more attractive to the things that I told you not to do? That's part of that Romeo and Juliet effect. You see that? He said that they are gone far from me and have walked after vanity and become vain. Now we over here in Babylon the Great chasing and killing each other over a piece of paper. That's vanity. To try to live an American dream. You're not an American, you're an Israelite. That's vanity. You killing each other for status and fame in a land that's wicked as hell. That's vanity. You trying to be successful and have a high statue in an evil society. That's vanity. Vain things that we chase after here in this society. The things that we need to be chasing after, peace, for one, love and kindness toward one another, building our nation up. We don't seek these things. All we talking about is damn finances, killing each other, finances, having a good time. That's all we seek here in this land. That's why we will never get ahead. Only way we're going to get ahead is coming together as the Lord commands us, keeping these commandments and having faith in the Lord. Not in man, not in money, but having faith in the Lord, doing the things that's required. All right, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 35. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 35, excuse me.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 16, and verse number 35. Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord. Thus said the Lord God, because thy filthiness was poured out, and thy nakedness discovered through thy whoredoms with thy lovers, and with all the idols of thy abominations, and by the blood of thy children, which thou didst give unto them. Behold, therefore I will gather all thy lovers with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all them that thou hast loved, with all them that thou hast hated, I will even gather them round about against thee, and will discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness.
You see that? The Lord said, oh, you want to run to your lovers, huh? That's where you find security at? You think it's green on the other side? Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to gather all your lovers and they're going to come against you. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to expose you. They're going to show all your nakedness, meaning all your sins. It said, and we'll discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness. Let me find the precept for that right quick. I think it's in Exodus chapter 32 to show you that nakedness is sin. All right. And this is the book of Exodus chapter 32, verse 21. I started 20. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in fire and ground it to powder. Now I started 21. And Moses said unto Aaron, what did this people unto thee, that thou hast brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, let not thy anger, my Lord, wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. For they said unto me, make us gods, which shall go before us. For this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, will wot not what it become of him. And I said unto them, whosoever have any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it to me. Then I cast it in the fire, and they came out of calf. And when Moses saw the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. So what is nakedness? Talking about sin. So when you read in Genesis, talking about Adam and Eve, they were in sin. That's what it was talking about. So when you go back to Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 37, and it said, let me see, scrolling down in the middle toward the end, it said, and we'll discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness, all our sins, all the things that we were not supposed to be doing. And they're going to show us why we were being punished. For being in idolatry, for being harlots, being in whoredom, chasing after these other nations. But read on, King, verse 38.
It was Ezekiel what again?
Ezekiel 16 and 38.
All right. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 16, and verse number 38. So like, I got you. Book of Ezekiel, chapter 16, verse 38. And I will judge thee as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged. And I will give thee blood in thy fury and jealousy.
Read.
Verse 39. And I will also give thee into their hand, and they shall throw down thine intimate place, and shall break down thy high places. They shall strip thee also of thy clothes, and shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare.
That. So the Lord said, I'm going to give you into the hand of your enemies. Since you want to be with them so bad, you don't want to trust in me, you don't want to listen to me, you don't want my protection, you don't want my guidance, you don't want me to do anything for you, go deal with your lovers. I'm going to bring them around, and I'm going to have them expose you. I'm going to have them strip you down butt naked and take all your jewels. Take everything that you were about. I'm going to have them strip it and take it from you. Read on.
Verse number 40. They shall also bring up company against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and thrust thee through with their swords.
See that? That's prophecy right there. That was going to happen to us, and it's still happening unto this day. Why? Because we want to follow Romeo and Juliet. We want to do what they do, rebel. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. So while we, you know what I'm saying, going and chasing our lovers, the Lord wants us to do something right quick. Deuteronomy 32 and 7.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy fathers, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee.
They will tell you what? Tell you how your enemies hate your guts. They will tell you how your enemies constantly lie and misuse you as a nation of people. How they will never tell you the truth. How they will never help you. Even though they come in your barber shops, your beauty shops, and shake hands and kiss babies to get your vote, they will never do anything for you. Even though they give you these so-called holidays, that don't mean they care for you. Guess what? The same holidays that they giving you, they taking off too. The same ones that was beating and raping and robbing you, they give you Juneteenth. Guess what? They getting paid too to be off. They give you so-called Black History Month. You ain't getting nothing out of that. They giving you an opportunity to reflect on what they did to you, to us. And we taking trips to museums all around the world to go see what the other nations did to us. And we happy about it. Crazy as we crazy as hell, Israel. But the Lord said, don't forget how your lovers have done you. But he said, remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. This ain't just started in the 1900s. This been going on since we was in our own land. When we were in Egypt, the other nations were hating our guts. So ask thy father, meaning the Most High, through his word, and he will show thee. The elders, they will tell thee of all the wickedness that had happened to our people. That's why the Lord said, write it down. That's why we got history books, to show you, to prove to you that you are not supposed to be mixing and mingling with these other nations. But we say the hell with it. Why? Because we chasing after our lovers, chasing after the ways of wickedness. Let's go to, matter of fact, let me pull this up right quick. Just to prove to you more how we are not supposed to be doing these things. Now, we read earlier in that book, Sex and Racism in America, but now we're going to go to anti-miscegenation laws. I might have misspelled it or mispronounced it, but these are laws that enforce racial segregation at the level of marriage and intimate relationships by criminalizing interracial marriage, and sometimes also sex between members of different races. You see that? Laws that were put in place. Now, it didn't just happen in the United States. For those who think that you in the land of free, it didn't just happen here. These are laws that prohibit or used to prohibit interracial marriage. It says in the United States, interracial marriage, cohabitation, and sex have been termed miscegenation. Since the term was coined in 1863, contemporary uses of this term is infrequent, except to refer to historical laws banning the practice. So for those who just want to gloat and say it's not like that anymore, the Lord said, remember the days of old. They used to have laws in place preventing us from mixing and mingling with each other. Think about that. So if they allow you to do it now, think about the wickedness that goes along with it. You know? All right, let me go.
About right there, bro.
Go ahead, King.
It's Ecclesiasticus 12 and verse 10. It says, never trust thy enemies, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. And I brought that out to say, just like you said, it was laws against interracial marriages. Now they're saying it's okay. The reason they say it's okay is because when we do those things, we are in sin, which means we're gonna be held back long. So they say, okay, let them do that. Let's let them do anything that they God tell them not to do. And as long as they doing that, we're gonna stay in rulership. So all these laws that people think that they are doing for our best interest, they doing it for their best interest, so they can stay in rulership. That's why the scripture said, never trust thy enemy.
That's right.
They're doing you a favor. Well, don't think because they're doing something that you might consider a favor, that it's really a favor.
That's right.
Or you're a detriment.
That's right.
But in the scripture, you won't know that.
All praise for that, King. That's a great point right there. You know? And so we realize through this class that the Lord does not want us, Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, he don't want us dealing with the other nations. He don't want us mixing and mingling with them. All right? They even had laws in this land and other lands saying that we ain't supposed to be doing it. We were not supposed to be doing these things. All right? But what we want to do, assimilate. Ain't that what MLK March was all about? Assimilating. So that young boys and girls of other nations can hold hands and play together. What does assimilate mean? Let's go to the etymology of this word. Assimilate. One of y'all brothers read it.
It says early. Okay, early in sociology, absorb into and make part of the body, from Latin assimilatus, past participle of a similar to make like, copy, imitate, assume the form of, theme, pretend, from assimilated form of add to see, make similar, from similis, Salakia fam, from similis, like resembling of the same kind.
All right, all
Similar.
right. So it was saying that to assimilate is to make like, to copy, to imitate, to assume the form of, to fiend, to pretend. This is what we were doing when we trying to assimilate, trying to act like them, trying to be like them, we trying to dress like them. When we assimilate, make alike, we're not being ourselves. We trying to be just like them. And that's exactly what's going on. We trying to be just like them. Even though the Lord done put up rules to protect us from them, because he already told us how they deal, where their mindset is, that they would deal hatefully with us. But we want to be just like them. We want to assimilate. Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 23, verse 15, right quick. We want to be just like them. We want to be a carbon copy. Imitate. I want my kid to get those degrees just like them. For what? How is that helping your people? When you're getting their education. That makes no sense to me. We're going to get into that in a little bit as well. Bring that out in Joshua chapter 23, verse 15 and 16.
Joshua chapter 23 and verse number 15. And it reads, and they came unto the children of Reuben and unto the children of Gad and to the half tribe of Manasseh, unto the land of Gilead, and they spake to them.
Chapter 23.
Salaki, I was in 22. Salaki, Joshua chapter 23 and verse
15 and 16.
15. Therefore, it shall come to pass that as all good things are come upon you, which the Lord your God promised you, so shall the Lord bring upon you all evil things until he have destroyed you from off this good land, which the Lord your God hath given you. Verse 16. When you have transgressed the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and have gone and served other gods, and bowed yourself to them, then shall the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and ye shall perish quickly from off the good land which he hath given you unto you.
And this is part of the punishment that we receive for chasing after these other nations. All right. Let me pull this up right quick. Just to go back to show you, to remember the days of old, to show our brothers and sisters how, like the brother Ezekiel was talking about, how we think we have fought for something now because we have overcome these things. But if we never went through breaking the commandments, we would have never had to go through these things. These are the things that we as a nation of people forget about. We don't ask the questions like why we had to go through these things. We just say we shall overcome. Let me make sure that's on the screen. All right.
The local newspaper, the Arkansas Gazette at that time, indicated that the Brown decision was going to change the face of the South.
Now, this is actually a story, a little video going into the Little Rock Nine. For those who don't know, these was 9 students that were the first ones to be integrated into this school in Arkansas back in the day. And we were trying so hard to assimilate, to be accepted in society, to be equal, that we would force our children to go to their schools thinking that we were going to get a better education. Now, I want you to look at this picture. Look at our former students of old, how they were dressed in order, wearing their own hair, in modesty, together, unity, men teachers, unity, modesty, togetherness.
Ever. I remember those words. And I thought to myself, good, because I think the face of the South ought to change.
I will not force my people to integrate against their will.
The governor,
he didn't want us to integrate. We weren't supposed to.
The state, Orville Forbes, decided that he was going to use Central as his point of resistance. None of us of the 9 anticipated that the resistance would be as strong as it was. The night before we were to go to school, the governor called out the Arkansas National Guard, unbeknownst to us. And when we appeared at Central the first day, the National Guard was there to bar our entrance and let white students go into the school.
See that? Why in the hell would we force our children to go through this? Our army got to be out there for them to be able, the children to walk into this school to be so-called educated. Our army had to be out there for them to go to the school where they were not welcome, not wanted, they were hated, spit on, bricks, bottles thrown at them to go to these schools. And this is what the brother was talking about earlier when they make us seem as if we are fighting for some real right. They have us to believe that we are fighting for something worth dying for. And imagine the mindset of the parents, so brainwashed, so gone, that they would put their child's life at risk just to go to these schools. Now you might be saying to yourself, brother, you tripping. Without progress, we still be in the same situation we were in. Why was Tulsa, Oklahoma thriving? Because we were not allowed to do the things or blend and be in the same realm with the other nations. We had to unify. We had to depend on each other. That's why we succeeded. But we were still in wickedness because we weren't following the commandments. But that was the reason why we succeeded in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because we did not have the ability to deal with the other nations. It was segregated. That's why Rosewood was thriving. All of our little neighborhoods and cities that we lived in was thriving because we were forced to live with each other. Unified. We took care of each other. We dealt with each other. We spent our money with each other. But when we fought to assimilate, now all of that's destroyed. Now we feel we can go to their store, spend our money. We're better off. We can go to their restaurants. We're better off. Go to their schools. We're better off. There goes your unity. Your community is destroyed from that point on. But we were sending our kids to these schools with an army there to escort them in. So we think by us getting in their classroom, oh, we in here. Oh, yeah, now we getting ready to do some damage. We in a classroom thinking we doing something, fighting to be oppressed, to be honest, to learn a system that was slighted in our version, in our towards us. They didn't teach us any real history about who we are or the things that we needed to do or that we did. You think they would teach us these things? No. Are they doing it today? No. 75 to 80% of our people don't know what happened to us before we got on them slave ships. A lot of them don't even believe slave ships existed. So did we really conquer anything by being sick or being included in their classrooms, following their dreams? No, we fought for sin, like the brother brought out. We fought for sin, and they sitting back laughing. And they say, you know what, go ahead, let them in. Now they are ready to be amongst us. Now they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Now they want to be like us. And now they're in sin. They want to stand and vote for us. They want to go to our schools. They want to date. They want to marry us. Now we chasing after sin. Now we fought for sin. Now we'll kill each other to go backwards.
What it was like, it was rejection that I had never experienced like that. It seemed to me that if they were going to all of this trouble to keep me out, there was something bigger than my simply going to class. Only when we got home from school that day did we realize what an ordeal, personal ordeal, Elizabeth had gone through. And
think about the psychology or the emotional drama, the mental health of this sister or those kids, period. Do you think they grew up trying to love everybody? Hell no.
And that she certainly faced more of the mob directly. I always applaud the fact that she was able to keep both her composure and try to figure out how to get out of that. We started school on the 25th of September.
President Eisenhower sends 500 troops of the 101st Airborne Division of the United States Army.
It was a terrific feeling that President of the United States would send troops to escort us into school.
We feel special behind that. we feel special behind it because we had an army to come escort us in. That same army don't give a damn about us. They were just following orders.
I didn't know what was going to happen after that. It was like going to war every day. You had students who tried to use as much verbiage as they could to intimidate us. We had threats and comments that, we would be killed. For all of us, we decided that this was a year that we were going to support each other.
Now, you know what's crazy about this? At this particular moment, the kids, our people, they were still together, knowing they were being oppressed and being hated by the other nation. They stuck together. How is it today that it's flip mode, where our people are the ones that's talking down and threatening each other and have more respect for the other nation? Why? Because we ain't teaching them of the days of old. They see what they watch on TV, what they hear on these video games and in these songs, and they think, hey, everybody's a friend, not realizing what actually happened in times of old. You got our kids in there picking on each other at school, threatening each other, shooting each other, stabbing each other at these schools. Meanwhile, the other nations, the ones smiling in their face, hey, how you doing, friend? And our kids grow up loving and liking them more than their own people.
Am I say something, bro? It
Go
seems
ahead,
like Israel is more concerned in having love and compassion and togetherness with the other nation. Like you were saying, besides having that love and compassion and that push, that motivation to come together for each other. You know, we gave the nations all the love and care, but when it came to each other, we didn't support each other none, man.
Still don't.
You know what I'm saying? We was all together when they was throwing bricks at us. You ain't had no choice but to be together because there's nobody else like you. You know, they put you in danger with those damn rock wild, the damn German shepherds over there in the white schools, man. They put you together with those people because they know they hated you, man. They know the people hated you. That's why they had to bring the armed forces to come and protect you to go inside. It makes no sense that our people act like that was an achievement. It wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, it exposed, it exposed the white man on TV a little bit, but be honest, it didn't do nothing for us. We just, and it became worse. But if I can get a priest,
go ahead.
Book of Proverbs, 11:21. Book of Proverbs, chapter 11, and verse 21. It says, though hand join in hand, the wicked should not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So though we join hand with our enemies, you know what I'm saying, want to follow their pursuit, want to follow their traditions, their education, the wicked still not going to go unpunished, man.
That's right.
Because we thinking that it's going to change the white man mentality. We was thinking that if we integrated with them, that their mentality is going to be different. They love and compassion for us going to be on a whole other level. But no, they still hated us, man. So the Lord said, though hand join in hand, the wicked should not go unpunished. They still going to get their just due judgment. That's all.
All praise for that. They going to get their just due, though. But we got to wake up first. If we don't wake up, they don't get no judgment. We got to wake up and start doing what we were created to do. It's because we disobeyed the laws that we even had to deal with them, that we were delivered into their hand. That's the true answer. It ain't the color of your skin. It's because we rebelled against the Lord. So-called Black and Hispanic and Native American, man. That's why we get persecuted by these other nations. It ain't about the color of our skin. All right.
We were going to try to do as well as we could in our academic work. Some were a lot smarter than me, but I also was determined that this year I was going to graduate from Central. The principal of the school told me at one point along the way that I didn't have to come to the ceremony. They would mail me my diploma. And I thought, listen, I didn't go through all this to pass up the ceremony. Maybe the world thought that after Little Rock, everything is going to be fixed. And one of the important pieces, I'm sure I don't need it to remind anyone, that the history of slavery in this country makes it very difficult to overcome a lot of issues on race. We're a long way from being perfect, but we certainly are not what we were when I started out. I believe that our participation at Central is one of those many steps that's gone to change this country for the better.
That's where you wrong, my friend. That's where you wrong. You know, but because he went through that, of course he would say that. You know, and I hate the fact that our brothers and sisters had to go through these things and still go through these things today. I hate that. And if you love the Lord, you would hate that as well. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't have to go through these things. But from there, let's go to the book of Job, chapter 12, verse 7, right quick. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 12, verse 7. And then somebody give me Sirach, chapter 13, verse 15.
12 and verse 7. But ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee.
What is that saying right there? That the beast or that nature itself will teach thee and show you how things are supposed to be. It's that simple. Nature will teach thee. When you look into nature, you're not going to see lions laying down with giraffes or gazelles. They don't grow together. They don't live together. You're not going to see that. You're not going to see elephants laid up with lions. Nature will teach you. You're not going to see eagles chilling with hawks. Even though they birds, you're not going to see them together. Just like everybody's saying, or what they say in this society, we're all human. Hey, you don't see blue jays hanging out with crows. You know, you don't see ducks hanging out with geese. You know, you don't see damn dogs hanging out with hippos. You don't see all that. I know I use very different animals, but you don't see them mixing and mingling. You don't see them hanging with each other in the same environment. They got their own habitats. But for some odd reason, we, being at the top of the food chain, think we can do whatever. No, that ain't how the Lord designed it. That's why he told you, when you look to the beast, when you look to the animals, when you look to nature, they will teach you. Just like, for instance, if you in the wild and you ain't got nothing to eat, watch the clean animals, what they eat, they will tell you and show you what you can eat. You don't know what to eat, you ain't got no vegetables, no fruits. You don't know what's good to eat. Hey, watch the deer. That's a clean animal, so what it eats, you can eat. Nature will teach you. See that? Just like when you watching ants in an ant bed. Now, when you step on an ant bed, what happens? All the ants, they in an uproar. If you keep your foot in it, you're going to get bit up. You're going to get tore up. They fighting together against the enemy. And what are they doing at the same time? Rebuilding their kingdom. They working together to rebuild their kingdom. They ain't in there fighting each other. They working together. Nature will teach you. That's how we supposed to be. If anybody come against our nation, our kingdom, we supposed to be in their ass. And if they damage anything, we supposed to be rebuilding, that you read about in the scriptures. It ain't no man laying with another man. Hey, that's wickedness. That's confusion. That's not of the Lord. But we learning these things and these customs here in this society. Babylon the Great. Think about that. Let's read that in Sirach. Sirach chapter 13, verse 15 through 20. I'll read it. The book of Sirach, chapter 13, verse 15. Every beast loveth his life, and every man loveth his neighbor. All flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his life. You mind putting your mic on mute? It said, all flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like, meaning we're going to stick to our own nature. They're going to stick to their own. Verse 17, what fellowship have the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the godly. They have no place together. You see that? Verse 18, what agreement is there between the hyena and a dog? They totally different. Ain't no agreement. And what peace between the rich and the poor? It ain't none, because the rich only exist to oppress the poor. You see that? 19, as the wild ass is the lion's prey in the wilderness, so the rich eat up the poor. You see that? It's furthermore explain what I just said. Verse 20, as the proud hate humility, so doeth the rich abhor the poor. You see that? That's plain. That's plain as day right there. But we have to understand these things. The same ones who are in rulership right now know that we are in the poor position. Even though the Lord said we rich because of the promises, the covenants, the kingdom that's coming. But right now, we're in a poor state right now. And those who are ruling, they in the rich position. Therefore, they hate us being the poor. You know? And what fellowship do we have with them? None. That's scripture. That's biblical. Let's go to Sirach chapter 26, verse 19. The book of Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 26, verse 19 through 21. Your mic on mute if you're reading, King.
Is it through 21?
19 through 21.
Okay. The book of Sirach, chapter 19, excuse me, chapter 26. Jesus Christ, my bad, man. Salaki, King. Go ahead and get that for me, King.
All right. Book of Sirach, chapter 26, verse 19. It says, my son, keep the flower of thine age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers. Don't give your strength to strangers. All right, verse 20. Thou hast gotten a fruitful possession through all the field, sow it with thine own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock. So thy race, which thou lovest or leavest, shall be magnified, having the confidence of their good descent. So this is scripture showing you that we're supposed to sow our seed with our own people. Our own seed with our own people. That goes for your money, your education, and especially with your seed, your sperm. You know what I'm saying? Your offspring. Sow it with your own people, so that our people will be strong. Let me see what it says. When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession through all the field, sow it with thine own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock, trusting in the goodness of our people. So thy race, which thou leavest, shall be magnified. Our money should be going back into our community. The knowledge and the history that we have been through as a nation of people should be regurgitated and learned and built upon. Not we learn this and hide it from that, brother or sister. That don't make no sense. I learned how to do this, I'm going to hide it from that brother. Or I don't want her to know this, I'm going to keep it to myself. Or I don't want them to raise up, they might get up over me. That's wicked as hell. We're supposed to sow our seed, our knowledge, everything with our brothers and sisters, so that we can be magnified. All right. From there, I'm going to show you this other article right quick. Bear with me, Israel. I know we got a short attention span, but this is nurturing nutrition for the spirit. You know what I'm saying? To help teach you something that you didn't know yesterday. You know? So we're going to go to this article on Jim Crow law. All right. Show you a few things in here. All right. Just going back to what Deuteronomy 32:7 said about remembering the days of old, because our people forget so quickly. There used to be signs on these water fountains that y'all take for granted. You know, you couldn't drink out of certain water fountains. I said, well, it says Jim Crow laws were a collection of state and local statutes that legalized racial segregation named after a black minstrel show character. The laws, which existed about 100 years from the post-Civil War era until 1968, were meant to marginalize African Americans by denying them the right to vote, hold jobs, get an education, or other opportunities. Those who attempted to defy Jim Crow laws often faced arrests, fines, jail sentences, violence, and death. Now let's scroll on down, because what you see is something called black codes. These things are not discussed too often, but we got to bring these things out to remind our brothers and sisters of the things that we went through and the things that we still fighting in these present times. All right, let me blow this up a little bit. All right. Let's see. The root of Jim Crow law began as early as 1865, immediately following the ratification of the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in the United States. Black codes were strict local and state laws that detailed when, where, and how formerly enslaved people could work and for how much compensation. The codes appeared throughout the South as a legal way to put black citizens into indentured servitude, to take voting rights away, to control where they lived, redlining, and how they traveled, and to seize children for labor purposes. Seize children for labor purposes. You see that? Still allowing them to steal your children and sell them off and have them working somewhere. But we forget about these things. It says the legal system was stacked against black citizens with former Confederate soldiers working as police and judges, making it difficult for African Americans to win court cases and ensuring that they were subject to black codes. Now, if you watched anything about some of the classes that we did here recently, they just had at the beginning of March the marching over the bridge down in Selma, Alabama. And the bridge that they walked across was called the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I'm gonna bring that out one more time right quick. This bridge that they walked across down there, let me see if they pull it up. This bridge right here, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. All right. Now, just like that article just said, there's a history behind this guy, the one who they actually named it after. You know, see if I can pull it up right quick. Edmund Pettus was a lawyer and politician who represented Alabama in the United States Senate from 1897 to 1907. Let's read and see what else this demon did. He served as a senior officer of the Confederate States Army, commanding infantry in the Western Theater of the American Civil War. After the war, he was Grand Dragon, or the supreme leader of the Ku Klux Klan that terrorized and often killed African Americans. The Edmund Pettus Bridge across the Alabama River in Selma, built in 1940, was named after him. Now, this man they named it after him in 1940. According to the Smithsonian, the bridge was named for him in part to memorize his history of restraining and imprisoning African Americans in their quest for freedom after the Civil War. In 1965, the bridge became a landmark of civil rights movement. So this devil right here had that bridge named after him, but he also served where? In the legal field, where it made it hard for our people to do anything. You see that? Black offenders typically receive longer sentences than their white equals, and because of the grueling work, often did not live out their entire sentence. You see that? Because we had bastards like him, like this, in political seats, in the seats of judges, making it hard for us to do anything. But those are some of the things that we should know about black codes. These things were put in place to hinder our building as a nation of people, as they always do. That's the whole purpose behind them, to hinder us. But for some odd reason, when they're not doing these things anymore, we tend to forget that they even existed or happened. All right, play this video right quick. Hold on, bear with me. Give you some more information on this, on these black codes.
In November of 1865, the government that Andrew Johnson had set up in Mississippi passed a set of oppressive laws that applied only to African Americans. Soon, other Southern states followed suit. These laws became known as the Black Codes.
The basic purpose of the Black Codes was to recognize that slavery has been abolished, but to make sure that there is as little change from slavery to freedom as possible.
The key to the Black Codes was what they called vagrancy laws, things like that. Every adult Black person was required to sign a labor contract for the year with a white employer.
Required to sign these things every year and to work for their oppressor.
If they didn't do that, they would be considered a vagrant and they could be fined. And if they couldn't pay the fine, they could be auctioned off to someone who would pay the fine. And then they'd have to work off the fine for that person.
What's even worse than being arrested if you don't have a job is having your children taken away. So your neighbor down the road can go to the courts and say, John Jones, he can't take care of his children. He's indigent, but I'll take them in. And I will train them in farming methods. So I'll train the daughters in housewifery. And I will have their labor, and the parents will get a little bit of money at the end of their period of indenture. But Black parents didn't have a say in this.
A lot of parents are fighting back and saying, no, they don't want their children to be apprenticed. They can take care of them. They also know that in apprenticeship conditions, they can't protect their children from physical and sexual abuse. It becomes a way for the planter class to continue stealing the labor of the children and sometimes stealing the children themselves.
Enforcement of the Black Codes went hand in hand with relentless violence against the freed people.
Outside of cities and towns, the Union Army was shrinking rather than expanding. You're looking at former slaveholders who can't imagine living in a world where slavery doesn't exist if the Union Army is not on the ground and the Freedmen's Bureau is not there to enforce the new rules. Then they were going to do whatever they could to keep the African American population in a state of subordination.
The Ku Klux Klan is created in Tennessee in 1866. It coincides with the creation of Black Codes. You could argue that on some levels that the Klan is doing the same thing that the slave patrols did. During slavery, the slave patrols would make sure people have passes, making sure that they are not loitering. They're not getting together in bands of people. And the Klan is going to do the same type of thing.
You have people who are targeted because they've managed to acquire a decent amount of land, or their children are in school and a white person in their community is struggling at the same time. What they decide is that the way to deal with this is to attack the person, to take away everything they have, to destroy their property, to run them off their land.
All of what we're talking about, that they talking about in this video, is biblical. The Lord said in Ezekiel 23 and 28 that he would send us into the hand of them that we hate, and they would deal with us hatefully. And they would take away the things that we have worked for, that we have labored for. as you've seen her explain in this video, these things are biblical. They don't just happen at one time, they keep happening. As long as we keep rebelling against the Lord, these things will continue to happen.
At war's end, Frederick Douglass had wondered what new form slavery might take. After 6 months of Andrew Johnson's reconstruction, the answer was painfully obvious.
And Andrew Jackson is or Johnson was I forgot his nickname, but he was a murderer of our brothers and sisters of the tribe of Gad and Reuben. He was slaying the so-called Indians, Native American Indians, moving them out of their lands. That's where you get the Trail of Tears, where he was destroying our brothers and sisters. All right. Now I'm gonna show you one more video.
So I want to bring a precept real quick.
Yeah.
You know, into that because these black codes, man, they were severe. They're real severe to our people. And what Pettis did and all the others, like you said, man, they used those laws against us to their advantage to really mistreat the poor of our people, you know, because they wicked as hell and they had the power to do it and it's in their hand. But this is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious, and in death of a man there is no remedy, neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. For we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we had never been. For the breath of our nostrils is smoke, a little spark in the moving of our hearts." Let me go verse 10. Verse 10. "Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age." So they say, let's oppress the poor righteous man. We are the poor righteous man, the slaves that built this place, the so-called black man, the Native Americans and Hispanics. We are the poor righteous man. And this right here, in this instance, we talk about the so-called Negro. It says, "Let us oppress the poor righteous man." It says, verse 11, "Let our strength be the law of justice. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing, worth." So we were feeble, and they used their law of justice against us because they feel like it was nothing. That's why they call us 3/5 of a man in the Constitution. And that's why they did all these horrific things to us, because they found us to be feeble. We had no military, we had nothing, and we looked at them as they was important on the earth. And you know what I'm saying? And we were slaves to them. That's what they felt like, we were. So they use their laws against us, man. They use their laws, their black codes, all that. But that's all I want to bring out, King.
All praises, King. Appreciate that precept. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, right quick. Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 12. And we're going to read that to 16.
Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 12. "To whom he said, this is the rest, wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. But the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little, and there."
Got the mic coming in real choppy. Can you read it, brother?
Book of Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 12. "To whom he said, this is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. But the word of the Lord was upon them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken, and snared and taken."
You see that? The scriptures are supposed to be broken down precept upon precept. But our people said the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here, there, and little. that they may go and fall backwards. So they thinking whatever the Lord is saying gonna make them fall backwards. Read on.
Verse 14. Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men, that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement, when the overflowing scourge shall pass through it. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves.
You see that we made a covenant with death. That's the other nations. Death, sin. That's the other nations. That's what we make our covenant and agreements with. Read on.
Verse 16. Therefore, thus said the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste.
Now that's going into prophecy about Yahushua. He is the cornerstone that we're supposed to build upon. The chief stone, you know. But brought that out to show you how we put our lives on the line just to do what the Lord told us not to. He said, separate from your enemy. We said, the hell with it. I'm going to do it anyway. What you talking about, Lord, that's going to make us fall back. You know, the Lord said, oh, okay. But I'm going to show you something else just to show you more of the history that happened to us as a nation of people for being rebellious.
By the time Missouri Governor Jay Nixon went on television yesterday to announce the midnight curfew for residents of Ferguson, we'd already gone off the air here on MHP. But friend of the show, Dorian Warren, who was with me at my table yesterday, stuck around and joined my colleague TJ Holmes at his table during the news conference. After it ended, Dorian weighed in on the historical precedent to what the governor had to say.
What you just said, Raul, when the sun goes down, here is the historical context for this. If you were black in an all-white town, you could not be in that town when the sun goes down, and it was a threat to your safety.
Historian and author James Lowen, the man who literally wrote the book on sundown towns, uncovered thousands of these towns that existed in the United States throughout the 20th century. By some estimates, as many as 10,000 sundown towns had sprung up across the country by 1970. Some where the warning to African Americans not to let the sun go down on you was an unspoken rule that spread by reputation. Others where the warning was explicitly spelled out in signs posted along the highway or at the town or on the county line. But all of them, whites-only spaces where being black after dark could mean arrest, harassment, assault, or worse. In 1968, 21-year-old Carol Jenkins was selling encyclopedias door to door in the sundown town of Martinsville, Indiana, and she was stabbed in the chest with a screwdriver and left to die in the street. So for African-American travelers, making the choice about where to stop for food, gas, or a bathroom break, or rest for the night was potentially a life or death decision. It is in part what prompted the publication of this, the Negro Motorist Green Book. This handy guide let African Americans on the road know where they could find safe harbor and where they need to steer clear of the threat of white violence in sundown towns. The Green Book started to become obsolete when the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed racial discrimination in public accommodations. But that history of restricting travel and access to public spaces for African Americans seemed very present last night in Ferguson, where the streets, the people were warned to stay out after midnight in a town they normally call home.
So what I wanted to go back to, or the reason I brought this video out, is to show the youth especially, and for some of our brothers and sisters who in adulthood who have never heard of these things. We got to bring our history, or the history of this wicked country and these other nations, to the forefront to expose them. When they try to cover up and shake hands and smile in your face, you got to expose them for the things that they do. They put it right in your face. This is on MSNBC. They did a report on sundown town where our people would not be caught when the sun went down. Otherwise, you run the risk of being put to death. But they also made a movie called The Green Book that you can check out as well. But this book was created to help our people to be able to navigate throughout this country to be able to find gas, food, restaurants to go to, or a shelter to seek when the sun was going down, or places to visit or to travel through without getting killed. You know, you had to have an actual book to tell you where you could go. Think about that, how wicked that is. Think about that. But for some odd reason, we skip over these things, mainly because of ignorance, not knowing. And we just tend to think that everything's all good. So-called white man, he's just a friendly neighborhood white man. And all these other nations, they doing all the same thing, but more so under Esau, the Edomites. They are the most wicked. They have done things that are unspeakable, things you can't even think of. But for some odd reason, we skip over all that and say, hey, I want him because you got a good credit score, or because he's kind to me. Hey, we got to wake the hell up, Israel. You know, the history is there. All you got to do is do a little digging. And that's why we bring these classes out, to help our brothers and sisters understand truly who they are and why we go through the oppression and the persecution that we go through as a nation of people. But from there, let's go to Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. I got 3 precepts and we'll be out of here. Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. And somebody give me Leviticus 26 and 40.
The book of Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days,
come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He has smitten, and he will bind us up. So we have to realize that the Lord did these things. It wasn't just these other nations just woke up one day and decided to persecute us. The Lord did these things. Read on.
Verse 2. After 2 days will he revive us. And the 3rd day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know the Lord. His going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth.
See that? So we got to return unto the Lord, our God. He ain't the God of everybody. He's our Lord. Now, I could go into it a little deeper when it was talking about after 2 days, that's 2,000 years after them 2 days, you know, because when you read in the scriptures, it's in 2 Peter. Let's go there right quick. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. The book of 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 8. No, I think it's 3 verse 8. Excuse me. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8.
The book of 2 Peter chapter.
Go ahead, King.
Salaki. 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day.
See that? So one day with the Lord is 1,000 years for us. Understand that. All right. So from there, let's go to Leviticus chapter 26, verse 40. So we got to return unto the Lord. Return unto him. He gonna heal us. We got to return to him though. Because it's a reason why he ain't dealing with us right now, because we turned our backs on him. We chased after the other lovers. We rebelled against his commandment, just like Romeo and Juliet did. They rebelled against the rules, the commandments of their households. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 26 and 40. We're going to read that at 42.
The book of Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 40. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them unto the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humble, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity,
if
then
we accept the punishment of our iniquity, so we have to accept what's going on. We got to accept that thing. Once we admit our faults, then we got to accept that punishment. Read on.
Verse 42, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land.
You see that? That's how we get the Lord to remember what he promised us already, to get that protection that was already guaranteed, to get the land, to get the kingdom, to get rulership. We got to admit our faults, accept our punishment, and then the Lord will remember the things that he promised us. You know? All right, from there, let's go to Isaiah chapter 13, verse 9. This is the last script.
All right.
This is the reason why we want to participate in humbly and quickly come back to the Lord and be obedient and confess our faults. But there's a reason right here. Let's go to Isaiah 13 and 9 through 11.
Isaiah chapter 13, verse 9. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible.
See that? That's the wrath of the Lord coming against these wicked nations and upon our brothers and sisters, the 2/3 that don't want to repent and come back to doing what's required. The Lord said, I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. All right, jump down to verse 14, and we're going to read that to 16.
Verse number 14. And it shall be as the chase roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land.
So this is the part we're talking about, where the Lord is saying, well, these other nations, when this wrath is coming, everybody gonna flow and flee to their own land. You know,
everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished.
See that? So these other nations, they gonna get that just judgment that the brother was bringing out earlier. The wicked, they will not escape unpunished. You know what I'm saying? But the Lord said also, if you join with them, you're gonna fall by the sword. You know, and their children gonna be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. Think about these things when you considering living your life with these other nations. The Lord is coming back to save his people, not all, his people. He gonna repay them for the wickedness that they have done to the children of Israel. It's only just due, or what do you say? That's justice. You know what I'm saying? The Lord is a God of just balances. You can't just do whatever the hell you want to do with his chosen people and then think you're gonna get the kingdom. That don't make no damn sense. We are the people that have been crying out for centuries, for decades, you know, for eons, for saving, for help. Why? Because we are the people that need saving. Everybody else don't need saving. We are the only people, the only nation that don't have nothing. We are the only ones that need saving. So in order for us to be saved, we got to come back to the Lord. We got to do the things that's required. We got to confess our faults. We got to repent. We got to start keeping these commandments. Accept our punishment. Then the Lord going to remember the covenant that he made with our forefather. Then he'll come back, redeem us, and destroy these other nations. But Lord willing, you brothers and sisters learn something. I hope the class wasn't too long. And I'll pray that you hope that you learn something, that it ain't just go in one ear and out the other, or that it went in and it went in your ear and it stayed there. But once again, we want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai for the abundance of all things. I'm your brother Ananias.
Brother Benaiah.
And Brother Yakub.
And this has been another Sabbath class called the Romeo and Juliet Effect. And Lord willing, you learn something from this class. But at the end of the day, we appreciate you brothers and sisters tuning in. As you walk in this truth, continue to constantly build yourselves up day in and day out. Never take days off. Since we in the game, hey, we ain't got time for vacation. We ain't got time to slack off. You know what I'm saying? We got to go hard every day. Keep these commandments, keep the faith, love your brothers and sisters, and stay pushing day in and day out. But on that note, we say shalom, shalom, peace and greetings to you all, and we out.